Alrighty, gentlemen. Hello, hello, hello. And this has definitely been a while because I did not even think to hit any video before we get started or anything like that. So literally, when it counted down 3, 2, 1, 0,
Oh,
we're live.
I see.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're here.
So we're streaming wherever we are streaming all over the place. But before we get started, I just want to say, guys, I've missed you. I am glad to be back talking proper Doctor Who. And as I always say, here we go
We
again.
go again.
The Discussing Network presents Discussing Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Kyle Jones, and for the first time in recording for a while, I get to say welcome back, Clarence Brown. Mr. Brown, how are you?
Doing well, man. And as always, glad to be on with you guys to talk about proper Doctor Who.
Proper Doctor Who. And why do I say proper? Because we've been talking Torchwood on recent episodes, and now we're back talking proper Doctor Who. But who could be more proper than the one and only Lee Shackelford? Mr. Shackelford, how are you?
Very proper. Very proper.
Very proper indeed.
Just great. Yeah, I echo Clarence's sentiment. It's just great to be back here with you guys to do what we love doing. Here we
yeah.
are.
Here we are indeed. So what's been going on with you guys lately? Anything newsworthy? I mean, as of this recording, it is March the 25th. And before, I know we're talking about some news, Doctor Who anniversaries. We'll get to that later. But for you guys, anything interesting going on in the lives of your fandoms, yourselves, or anything before we get started?
Our fandoms. Yeah. We're kind of between events in the Star Trek universe too, aren't we? There's not
Yeah.
there's
Nothing going on, man.
no about that. The vast emptiness of space. About that.
Yeah. So we're
The
gonna have
final frontier.
we're gonna have Doctor Who and Endor coming up for on the Star Wars side, I guess. So
Interesting.
I'm excited for Endor season 2. Season 1 was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm looking forward to picking that back up again. So,
Well, speaking of fandoms, there's something that I've been watching, Lee, that fits into one of your fandoms. And I know we've discussed on various podcasts before, we've made reference to the CBS series Elementary, which I think you liked very much. I really,
Very
really
much.
enjoyed that. Have you heard about the new envisioned Sherlock-related CBS drama called Watson?
Watson, yes.
Have you seen it?
Oh, yes. And I've been enjoying it quite a lot. I enjoy all the sort of winking references to canonical Holmes, Watson's wife is Mary Morstan, and Shenwell Johnson is there, and so on. It's just fun. And the backstory is that Holmes is dead, and he took Moriarty with him, or did he?
Or did he?
So that's all, but as a contemporary medical mystery drama, I just appreciate how smart it is. It really expects the audience to know stuff and pay attention, and I think that the stable of characters around him are very interesting too. And so yeah, I'm just loving it.
So fun fact, I think is it Craig Sweeney, the guy that runs Watson, also was a writer on Elementary.
Elementary, right?
Really?
Yes. But
Yeah.
the thing that's going to shock you, he's also the writer of the worst movie to come out in Star Trek history,
Yep.
Section 31.
Afraid so. But I can attest to you. There's so many things that happen between the script and the screen
Yeah.
that I'm willing to cut him some slack.
Yeah.
I just recently saw a film from the mid '60s, I want to say, called The Bubble, which is just a cult film. It's largely forgotten, but it's just a disaster. And it was written by Arch Oboler, who is one of the great writers of radio and early television. So you just see that name and you go, wait a minute, Arch Oboler wrote this? How is that possible? And the answer is it clearly got away from him. I mean, I yeah, whatever he wrote, that's not what they shot. So I'm going to give
boy.
Craig Sweeney the same hall pass instead. But yeah, I was skeptical about Watson, and then I saw, it said, "Hey, and it's created by some of the people behind Elementary," and I'm like, oh, okay, now we're talking.
Yeah.
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 So
Good pedigree there.
And
Right.
Morris
Yes.
Chestnut, who I've always enjoyed seeing on screen as an actor, I think he's doing an awesome job as
He's
Watson.
superb.
Yes,
He's superb.
very much so. But we're not here to talk about Dr. Watson, as our friend Win Grace in the chat, hello Win Grace, says, Doctor Who, not Dr.
Who?
Watson, Doctor Who. That's why we're here. So
Yeah.
I guess I need to say for everyone listening, if you have not seen the titles of the upcoming Series 15, Season 2, whatever you want to call it, put us on pause. Go out to YouTube, Google it, however you want to do it. Come back, because from this moment forward, spoilers. All righty, we are back and we are about to begin talking about Series 2. But before we get into the episodes, gentlemen, are you excited about this upcoming season?
Well, I have to say, if that trailer, I mean, I really enjoyed trailer 1, the first trailer that came out, I guess a month or so, a few months back. But trailer number 2 may be one of the best trailers of anything I've ever seen.
Really?
The underlying score, the emotion that it invokes, and also just the visuals. It just seems like this season is going to be bananas, man, and I can't wait for
Yeah.
it.
Okay, Lee, what do you think?
Same. If they can deliver on those trailers, then we're in for a great ride.
All right. So
I
I'm
don't know.
going
What
to
about
make,
you? What do you think?
I'm going to make a prediction, and I'm going to go back once again to RTD1, the first era of RTD, and how we have on this podcast several times made reference to we nostalgia in our head. We've got this nostalgic view of RTD1, but we don't look at it as Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, Series 4. We look at it in the complete story. Where you hear he will knock 4 times, you will hear vote Saxon, you will hear all these things, and it's all one story.
Yeah.
I think when RTD wrote this, he wrote 16 episodes. So when we are scratching our heads a little bit at the end of the 8th episode, that's because we haven't seen 9 through 16. That's going to be my hope. And I am psyched. I'm totally psyched at the feel that I'm getting. Clarence, I think you're thinking.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I don't know if I even need that with this season, because again, just from these visuals and kind of the cues we're getting from the trailer, it seemed like each episode in itself is going to feel epic. So I don't know if I need the actual through line for the whole season. I guess kind of going back to the days of old, as we talk about, some Star Trek shows like Strange New Worlds, where it's more self-contained episodes. Hey, if that's what we're going to do with Doctor Who for this season, I'm okay with it. I kind of got on board with it a little bit last season, because it felt more self-contained versus the big storyline last season for me. But especially if each of these episodes are as fantastical as they look in this trailer, I think I'd be down for it not having that through line. Although we know it will, because it's like you said, it's Doctor Who. We're going to have the through line. But I don't know if I need that, man.
Okay, Lee, what say you?
Yeah, from the reboot onward, we were taught that there's always going to be a bad wolf who knock 4 times, vote Saxon something. And so I do expect it again, but I'm with Clarence. I don't need it. And I feel like sometimes, well, like last season, I think we pushed hard to try to tie those episodes together, and it didn't feel to me like there really was a plan. And it just, so it sort of felt kind of unevenly stitched. And it's not worth it to me. I'd rather, I grew up on television of the '60s. Our dramatic series were not serials; they were standalone episodes. So the network, so that in reruns you can shuffle them in any order you like.
Yeah.
Uh, we don't do that anymore, and you know, I understand why you want to leave people at the end of each episode with a tune in tomorrow, but I don't know. I'm not married to it, so.
Well, I have this feeling that this season, more than last season, will be a series arc. And the reason I say that is if you've seen the poster, which is absolutely beautiful, the tagline on the poster is "Get her home."
Yeah.
So I
Of course.
think this entire season, starting with the first episode that we're about to talk about now, the robot revolution, will be he meets the new companion and something happens, and the entire rest of the season is getting her home.
Yeah, it does also seem like from the trailer something's going wrong with the TARDIS. So malfunctioning, misfunctioning TARDIS, trying to get her home. I could see how that could be a grand adventure.
So the
And
robot.
it really takes us back to the beginning, because that was the first
Oh,
Doctor's
yeah.
problem, right? It was
Yeah.
Ian and Barbara did not want to be there, and then all of us classic series fans will remember Tegan Jovanka's constant "Get me out of here." So this feels like a return to form in that way. But yeah, what if you can't do pinpoint landings on the TARDIS as we have come to do in current time? Maybe, yeah. Kind of
So,
interesting.
what do you guys think of the visual / the name, the Robot Revolution?
It could be anything.
Really?
I kind of wonder if it's tying to what's the episode we saw the companion in the last season? I forget the name of the episode.
Boom.
Yeah,
Oh.
boom. It gives me that aesthetic a little bit, but I have a feeling it doesn't tie into it completely. But we did have robots in that episode. A robot nurse that was kind of going crazy. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Lee, what do you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, Doctor Who has always had robots involved, and cyborgs, obviously, but we've seen them revolt, and we've seen them be revolting in many ways. So this is not new territory for Doctor Who at all. Yeah, I like any story that has robots in it, so I'm on board. Just want to see what happens.
So, would someone like to remind me the name? I know the name, but I'm doing this for a reason. Would someone like to remind me the name of our new companion? Not the actor's name, but the character's name.
I have no
Oops.
idea.
Yeah,
Tell us.
I have known it, but I've forgotten it now.
Well, I will give you a hint. Her name is on the image for the Robot Revolution. They are on planet Belinda. Interesting. Just Belinda Chandra is her name, or Chandra is her name.
Huh? The character.
So is she
Yeah.
from this planet, or is she abducted to this planet? We don't know.
Or is it pure coincidence?
Or is it pure coincidence?
Yeah.
So, any other thoughts before we move on from the Robot Revolution?
Let's move along.
All right. So the next one up, episode number 2, I think is going to be one of the most unique and interesting Doctor Who episodes that we will have ever seen. It is called Lux. And what do we know about Lux, anyone?
It means light, and has from throughout the 20th century been a popular name for movie theaters. And we know that what we know about this episode so far is that the projected image is going to loom large in it. So it's going to be about light from a projector.
Yep. Clarence, anything from you?
This is the one with the animated, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So for me with this trailer, seeing this in the trailer, it made me feel big swings. It made me feel like they're really going for it this season. They're not holding anything back, as we've seen from some of the space visuals, as well as this. What was the game that came out a while ago that was in this animation style, but old school animation style? And what do we have? The Star Trek episode, those old scientists, where they kind of crossed over. So it's reminding me of that a lot. So it just feels like they're taking a big swing with this. I'm anxious to see how it actually ties into the narrative, because it seems like a lot of, and I think they may have even mentioned it in the trailer, a lot of reality bending things might be going on this season.
Good, very good use of words, Clarence Brown. Very, very
Yeah, Cuphead.
good.
Thank
Yes.
you, Win Grace. Cuphead is
Okay.
the game I'm thinking of.
Huh. Not familiar. This episode also gives us the triumphant return, I guess, of Alan Cumming, who had done a memorable turn on the show a couple of years ago as James the First.
Yes.
So now he's voicing an animated character. So
And what's interesting that I was just sitting here thinking, he turns the Doctor and Belinda into 2D animation after becoming, I'm assuming he turns, that's, we don't know that for sure, but
Right.
after he becomes 3D into the real world as a cartoon character, he turns them into 2D animation in whatever he does to them. I
Right.
just think that's unique, interesting, and it just seems like this is going to be a very, very fun episode.
it could also be Space Babies.
It could also be Space Babies
By,
that you
I don't
just
know.
maybe want to throw down the well. I don't know. Who
the
knows?
well.
Maybe we would just watch it because it's the third episode, The Well.
Well,
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 well.
all right.
the
then.
first script's written, or at least co-written, by somebody other than RTD.
Correct. I really don't know anything to say about The Well other than there's a rumor out that there's something big that happens in episode 3.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I have no clue, but I just keep hearing, people are saying that there are supposed to be, or there is supposed to be something big in The Well. So,
But they always say that.
but they
so
always say that.
I don't know. Now, Ruby is going to turn back up again at some point.
Oh, lucky day.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the art, because I did not know what episode we think that is. So
Yes.
apparently it's Lucky Day. Huh?
Ooh,
Okay.
Windgrass says maybe it will be a Mavity well.
A Mavity well. Yeah.
Maybe they will be defying Mavity. I don't know.
Oh.
Who knows? But maybe that'll be their lucky day.
Yeah. With host Conrad Clark.
Is that the-
Subscribe Now weekly podcast series. See, I did not see that until I made this image and, blew it up a little bit. Interesting. So it's basically the part that's not on our screen, if you're watching it on YouTube, they have a picture of the department store behind this clipping that Rose worked in the first episode of series 1. There's some clippings about unit hiding aliens, and then there's a picture of, looks like Lucky Day with companion from last season whose name I just completely forgot, Ruby Sunday.
So this is going to be an evolution of in podcast form now. What's the episode that people hate but we love? Mr. Blue Sky. I can't remember the name of the episode.
Right. Love and Monsters.
Love and Monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder is it like a natural evolution
Oh.
of these suits, sort of like murders in the building or whatever, figuring out what's going on with the Doctor and trying to get to the root of things, and they're gonna bring Ruby Sunday on to talk about it.
And you
I
make a
would,
very
yeah.
good point, because that's what that looks like. It's like, look, Clarence Brown is on to talk about Doctor Who.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. The show is called Lucky Day, with special guest star Ruby Sunday.
Hosted by Conrad Clark.
Clark. Well, we'll find out.
I don't know. We need to go out and subscribe. It's a weekly podcast
Mhm,
series.
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea, but I do know that it looks like Unit will be in that episode. It also looks like that Ruby has a boyfriend, it looks like.
Okay.
And there is a scene in one of the flashbacks where I'm not sure what episode it is, but they ask this child who or what year is it, and I think he says 2007, and then he flashes forward and they show Ruby and her boyfriend. The rumor is that the child in 2007 is Ruby's boyfriend in the present day. Whether that's true
That's
or not or
interesting.
speculation, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Any other things about Lucky Day before we move on?
Nothing specifically, but I'll just say as we progress through the episodes and the trailer here, one of the things I didn't particularly like in the last season was the changing of the hair of Shooty, for the different scenarios. But I have to admit, I'm 1,000% on board with it. And you got to think they're in a spaceship. They're not going to different planets, but they're going to different times. So it makes sense that he would try to blend in. So I don't know.
To some extent.
I think I like it now. I like the different hair, and we see it on full display in this trailer where it sometimes is his normal length, sometimes a little bit longer. It looked like he might even have some dreads or braids or something in one of them.
Right.
So yeah, I it's grown on me for sure. Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe his hair, in this, maybe it's not maybe we don't know how long it's been between times. His hair could have grown.
That's
and he
true.
Styled
You
it
think?
differently.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks or about a month or so, and your hair had changed. It just so happens that Lee and I are bald. So
Yeah.
But, that's not the story, nor is it the engine, because guess what? The story and the engine is the next episode. Thoughts before we even get into it, or before I make any comments?
Yeah.
The story and the engine.
Missing folks, missing persons. I don't know, man. It could be. I don't know.
Yeah,
if I saw
could be
anything in the
anything.
trailer.
Once again, yeah.
Have you seen the animated version, or the not animated, but the actual video version of these? Because if you'll notice, there is a spider in the top, almost top left-hand side that crawls across the, this
The missing
image.
persons.
Yeah. So the rumor is there is a spider god that is, what is the name? I think it's an Anansi or Anasi. There's a spider god in folklore
arachne.
that is, like I said, based on a spider.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's a spider-looking creature that gets disintegrated in the trailer. So I'm wondering if those are the same thing.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we definitely got some visuals of a giant spider in some of the scenes. So yeah, maybe that's the tie-in there.
Just a classic Who shout out too. Lots of spiders in the past, including a whole serial called Planet of the Spiders. Yeah. But
Any other
I shall
thoughts?
see.
This one looks very, I don't want to say, camp is not the word, definitely not camp, but it seems, I want to say atmospheric, and again, that's not the word, but it may be one of those self-contained episodes. It looks like they're in this barbershop, and maybe that's what, sort of like when they were on the, in Midnight, where they're in this train car, and that's the only thing they're in for the entire episode.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is one of those type episodes that they're in this barbershop, and that's where everything takes place.
Yeah, you definitely
A
have the
bottle,
scissors
you call
there.
that.
Yeah. Bottle episode. Yes.
Bottle episode, yeah. Well, I'm intrigued by the missing persons who, I mean, that's a hook right there. It's like, okay.
And I wonder, being a barbershop, got the scissors in the picture. I wonder, is one of the people in there telling the story, or is the doctor
Uh-huh.
telling the story? And it's kind of, that's a place you
Ooh.
kind of
Right.
talk about things from the past or experiences. So maybe that's kind of how it's going to tie in.
Right.
And Wingrace says Anansi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. All right, so the next one is the one that I have been really interested to hear your
Hey.
thoughts, both of you, on, because I know one of the complaints last season was all the singing. Well, let's go all out with
Yeah.
the 803rd Interstellar Song Contest.
Yeah. And we've done, yeah, we've done Big Brother before. We've done The Weakest Link. So it looks like now Doctor Who will do Eurovision, or, and that's what this is all about. And yeah, I got nothing. I'm just thinking about the big, always a twist at the end dance, and how many people just said, "What the actual hell?" I mean, it's fun, but can I please have my show back? And I'm afraid this may be an hour of that, of us going, I don't know. I don't know.
Clarence.
Definitely the episode I'm least excited about. Just not, don't give two craps about it.
And you know what's going to be really interesting? If at the end of this series, we all come around and say, oh my goodness, we love that episode. That was our
Yeah.
favorite episode of the
Yeah.
season.
It's
No,
possible.
yeah, we always hope that's, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we oh, you know what they should do? Oh, this is so funny. You know what they should do? One of the, oh, I love this. One
We
of
may never
the,
get to it.
One of the, oh, this is too good. One of the acts that they should have on there is a group of singing oud.
Yes,
The oud sing is a song contest.
it's true.
That would be just the sight gag of that. If you just saw the oud standing on stage, and being voted off or something,
That would be wry. All right.
That would
I can
be
see
funny.
Yeah. Incidentally, one of the things that people are talking about, the fact that so far in the shooty era, we have never revisited villains characters, yes, we've seen unit people and so on, but none of the monsters that we know and love from the past. So we've had no Daleks, no Cybermen, no Autons, and so on. So if we suddenly saw the Ood, that would be the first.
Yes, it would. That would be odd, but it would be an ood.
A bit odd Ood. Yeah. But do we think any of these episodes was going to be in some way about the Master,
Could
or
be.
Daleks, or Cybermen, or
And this gives us a lot of cameos. We could have Slitheen. We could have, the Rhino people. The
Jadoon.
Jadoon on the moon.
Yes.
In a
Mhm.
platoon.
I think I'd volunteer to be a lyricist for the Jadoon song. 'Cause I think I could do the rhyming for them.
They got
So-
those rhymes, son.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Real quick before we move on, Clarence, thank you for sharing this. Anansi is a prominent trickster figure in West African, African American, and Caribbean folklore, often depicted as a spider and associated with stories, wisdom, knowledge, and trickery originating from the Akan culture in Ghana.
How about that? I did not know.
So,
I did not know.
and now you do.
Interesting.
The
Yeah.
rest of the story.
And just looking at these characters' names on the missing persons, that I could see how that can all tie. If I can see it.
Well, let's not go to another world. Let's go to Wish World. This is the second to the last episode, so usually when things get really kicked up into high gear, Wish World. Thoughts?
I'm worried that this could be. I'm drawing a blank on episode names now, but there are stories where we've done worlds where anything can happen and people think of things and they appear and that kind of thing. And it's there's just so many logical leaps required to make that make sense that it doesn't interest me much. And yeah, so I'm worried. I'm worried about Wish World, but maybe that's not what it means at all.
Indeed.
We'll see.
Maybe you make a wish. You make the world whatever you wish. I don't know.
Yeah.
You make your own reality. I don't know. Clarence, any thoughts from you before I give my 2 cents?
I really have no clue. The only thing I can really come up with, if it's going to be one of those episodes that are kind of, I forgot the technical term for it, but you go through a whole episode and then at the end of it, it really didn't happen, type of thing.
Right.
That's the feeling I'm getting just from that title. But
But I think you're right, Kyle, in saying that our pattern in the past has been that these last 2 episodes are two-parters, basically.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So Wish World, the reality war, I can really see a connection there if that's what we're doing. But
And
I
who's
don't
to say
know.
Wish World is even in our reality?
well, right. Well, and I would think it wouldn't be, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
One
Or
thing
if
that
I-
I found interesting in the visual, you really can't see on the part that I've got on screen, but in the visual, a lot of the room where this clock-like thing that says Wish World is looks bones.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was
That's what I'm
immediately
seeing.
wanting to think the wishbone. You may break the bone and make a wish, and I just found that interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely organic. And then the art in the reality war is not. It is
Organic.
Yeah.
And what if the Doctor's reality jumping the whole season?
That's a thought.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking if we're going to have one that takes place on Earth in the present day, and it looked like that's what Lucky Day is doing, then what's the problem of bringing his new companion back home? But if he keeps landing on something that looks and feels like where we want to be, but it isn't, that's an interesting problem to have. Yeah, it's kinda-
And
yeah,
Clarence-
that it's sliders, and, and
But
we
you
know
know
that's
what?
cool.
Clarence, to your point, this may well be true because there is a scene in the trailer where someone asks about planet Earth and someone says, I've never heard of it.
Yep.
So who's to say the reason he can't take her home is not because the TARDIS won't go. Excuse me, not the TARDIS. The TARDIS won't go where it's supposed to. There's no Earth to take her back to because they're in the
Right.
wrong reality.
Hmm.
Now, let me ask, there is something, and when I heard the name Reality War, and I keep hearing that people want there to be Daleks in this series, I can't help but hear Davros say, the reality bomb.
That's true.
So, the Reality War, I mean, that
Maybe
was
so.
the penultimate episode or the finale, really, of RTD's grand first journey.
That's true.
So,
Returning to the scene of the crime.
and if they are in the prime normal universe and Earth is missing, we already know who has stolen the Earth before,
That's
twice.
true.
Davros.
Yeah.
All right. So, any other? Because we are actually 34 minutes into it, but I want to know: are there any other items about this upcoming series that starts in just a few weeks?
Well, I do know what my next tag is going to be in my car. The Cardis.
The Cardis. Maybe not the Sid Rat, but the Cardis.
Right.
Just Cardis, man. Put on.
The Cardis from Cardiff.
In the chat, Wingray says that maybe this is all happening, that the TARDIS doesn't know how to TARDIS anymore after being ridden by Sutek for a half century. So,
Hey, if we can have Mavity, we can have Cardis.
exactly.
All right, so gentlemen, let's go ahead and go into the other part of why we are here because as of this recording, tomorrow marks the 20th anniversary of Rose.
Hmm.
Series 1, Episode 1, Rose.
Seems like yesterday.
Yes, it does. So I have a couple of questions for you. Does it seem like it's been, like you said,
Yeah.
20 years since Rose?
Hmm.
Or does it?
I have a handy built-in calendar because my son, as a little boy, and I watched Rose together. I've been showing him, classic series, and I'm saying now we're gonna start over. Let's see if how much of the original series they keep, or are we just gonna, I don't even know if there'll be the TARDIS in this. They could do anything. Let's watch and see. And he's grown up. He's a man now. So that's my rubric. I know that was 20 years ago because I've watched it in him. So yeah, but it also my experience of it was so emotional and that it is very vivid in my mind. So in that way, it feels like yesterday. What about y'all?
Clarence?
It in some ways it feels like 20 years for sure. Because I remember people talking about this. Cal and our coworker, or I guess he was my coworker. Cal was our boss. Lester talking about this, and I had no idea what these guys were talking about. I didn't even know what Doctor Who was really, other than just seeing it, on PBS every now and then. Like, oh, that seems interesting, and not really, diving into it. But I heard them talking about, when the show came back. So for me, it does feel like 20 years, certainly. But yeah, it's the time flies, I guess.
Yeah.
When you're having fun, it definitely seems like it's been a long time ago. And it's interesting going back at some of the footage where it wasn't shot in 16:9. It was, but when you go and watch it on Max, it's a 16:9.
Yes.
So,
Wonderful what we can do nowadays.
Yeah. So they did a pretty decent job upscaling it. Although some of the scenes definitely gonna be cut off in parts. But yeah, what do you think, Cal? Has it felt like?
In a way, it doesn't, but in a way, if you look at it, we've gone through 6 additional doctors plus 2, if you count in the Fugitive and the War Doctor. Spoilers. We've had, 6 plus 2, 8 doctors since the 9th Doctor in 20 years. So yeah, I guess it does and it doesn't. In a way, I'm just amazed that it has been 20. I'm happy that we're still talking about Doctor Who 20 years later from 2005, that it's, still on, still going. My next question is, what single thing do you think made Rose as an episode work? What single thing, if you had to point out one thing, and it can be something in the episode, about any, it could be writing, it could be people, whatever. What is one thing that you contribute to? This is what made it work. Lee, what do you think?
It's a really good question because several answers flitted through my mind as you were asking it, but I think I would have to come back to the script because there were so many ways to get back into the series. We could pretend like no time had passed, and just jump ahead. Yeah, but RTD took the audience by the hand through Rose and refused to tell us exactly what the hell is going on. So we had to understand that something like the Autons can happen. And then there's this mysterious character called the Doctor about whom we know nothing, except that he's dangerous. Maybe. Yeah. Is he causing all this to happen? What's going on? And then we find somebody who is an expert on the Doctor and can tell us everything. And he doesn't know either. So Yeah, the teasing the mystery of the Doctor himself and what's going on is, I just think, is a great way to get us back into the story. And yeah, and to use the companion so much as an avatar for the audience. I just think it's brilliant.
All right, Clarence, what say you?
I just totally agree with Lee. It was like the red pill, blue pill.
Hmm.
It's starting in this small, seemingly very normal situation with the character Rose herself, and then just opening up into all these possibilities and all this wonder, and the vastness of what Doctor Who is. And as Lee said, Rose is our avatar, and we start in that small space with her. This was the first Doctor Who for me really sitting down and watching. So I'm really living it through her, and then getting into all the possibilities, the time travel. We're opening up into this huge world. So that's what Rose was to me.
All right, so for me, I think I'm right there with you guys. If I had to name the one thing, and it's why I was so excited. Forget how people are saying RTD2 is not as great as RTD1, blah 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 blah, but you, he, the script, RTD, who wrote the script, chose to present Doctor Who in a re-envisioned way, but kept all the elements that made it still feel like Doctor Who. Because I think what worked was the pairing of just enough nostalgia to be true, but just enough new to be unknown, to marry those two together so that new people, Clarence, could enjoy it without feeling weighed down by, I need 26 or 25 or however many seasons to go back and watch.
Right.
But to be appreciated by those who had seen, who could sit down and say, oh, you see that thing over there that they just didn't even mention, but I know what that was, whatever
Yeah.
that was. You know, we knew what that was, but you didn't need to, you showed it, you didn't have to tell us, and that's what he did. And so I think the one thing for me, RTD. So let's think about the Ninth Doctor for just a moment. How do you think Christopher Eccleston's Doctor as the Ninth Doctor differed from what we had seen on screen so far? Clarence, why don't you take this one first?
How it differed from what we've
From
seen
previous,
after.
Yeah.
from previous Doctors.
Well, I don't really have a
and
point
you-
of reference
you-
on that one.
But,
Yeah,
but
you hadn't seen any at that point.
yeah,
so.
at that point. But you have now. So just based on what you've seen, how do you think the Ninth, or was the Ninth just a continuation? Maybe this is not a valid question. Maybe he was the Doctor. You know, I'm just wondering, do we think he was presented in a different paradigm in a way than previous Doctors, or was he?
Well, I think for me, just looking over the course of the season, I don't know really if I can deduce from just this episode, but over the course of the season, it was just like the weight of being the last. That's the thing I got from him the most in that season.
Okay, Lee, what about you? Do you see
That's
him
a
as
good
the same?
point. Well, Clarence raises a good point. One of the things that was an innovation, you were talking about this beautiful balance of the old and the new that R2D gave us right up front, is that one of the things that changed for those of us who knew the series from before is that he was telling us this awful thing has happened, this penultimate or this ultimate battle between Daleks and the Time Lords, and it's over and everybody lost.
Yeah.
And that's the burden that he carries, as last son of Gallifrey. And yeah, if you can take that in sort of intellectually if you're hearing it for the first time and you don't know who Daleks are or Gallifrey or any of that. But yeah, for fans of the classic series, we're going, oh my God.
Yeah, that had to be jarring. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Talk about your fresh starts. Okay. So he's Superman. That's cool. But also the look, his close cropped haircut and the leather jacket and so on, that was a bit of shaking things up. That he's always been an eccentric in the past. He's always, I mean, from our standards, from 20th, 21st century Earth, that just really, if you saw him walking down the street, you'd be going, what is that guy up to? Whether it's the sort of Edwardian outfit of the first Doctor and his long hair, or you've got question marks all over your jumper. It's you're sort of like, what's going on with this guy? The Ninth Doctor just looks like anybody else, and it looks like he's kind of catching on. And then we get inside his TARDIS, and it's all taped together, and that was a surprise too. I thought that's really interesting. This looks like he's been. You kind of wonder if he has to fix this thing himself. Is there a point where he's run out of parts and is having to make stuff? Because it's been a long time now. And they really, they dug down on that. This sort of junk store TARDIS. And it's just all interesting. It's just all really appealing to the eye. And I just think they did succeed in making him the same. It's the same character. We understand what his values are. We understand what his approach to solving a problem is going to be. But at the same time, it's very different.
All right, so let's transition to Rose. And I want to... Two of the strongest characters, I think, are from the classic series, are universally known, in my opinion, and I think for most people's opinion, Sarah Jane Smith and Ace. And when you think of strong female characters in that era, no offense to any other companions beside them. I'm not saying none of those others weren't strong, but I choose to say Sarah Jane and Ace. Yeah. Do we see Rose in the same mold as them, or was she different? And if so, how?
Wow, I would, from what I know, I would say very similar in some ways. And just thinking about this episode, Rose itself, to me, she was more of course, of 2005. She was more of that time. And I'm just looking at the episode now. When she wanted to find out more about the Doctor, she went on the internet and Googled it.
Right.
And searched it, excuse me. It's not Google. So she was kind of a combination of both of those characters, but also with the spin of the modern, of that time, the modern spin on it a little bit. I definitely think over time, we kind of talk about the newer companions is gravitating or moving to this otherworldly sense, where certainly by the end of the season she goes much further than those other two characters you mentioned go.
That's true.
I mean, she's something different. She's something different. So definitely, I think she starts below that. She gains a lot of that confidence that those characters have, and goes to a place they haven't been before, which I think that's kind of what you have to do for this new iteration.
So before Lee says his piece, I have to say, with her, I can guarantee you she's not afraid of the big bad wolf. Just going to say it. Lee Shackelford, what do you say?
True enough. That made me forget what I was going to say.
Sorry.
Because I just thought about Sarah Jane with the spider on her back, and I thought, Sarah Jane ain't afraid of nothing.
Yeah.
So, and Ace, as we saw in Survival, Ace can actually outrun a horse. So, I don't know. Anyway, if I get a chance to talk to Sophie Aldred, I want to talk about shooting that, because, anyway, it really does look like she's outrunning a horse for a minute. But yeah, Rose is in the mold of some of the other companions because they come in as complete innocents and they have no idea what's going on, and they have youth and they have vigor and they have curiosity. But I always like the fact, I know we're talking about this episode particularly, but I always like the fact that in Empty Child, she's kind of fed up with him. Do you remember this? That when we start this episode, and she wants him to. Well, she says she wants some Spock. She says, "Don't you have something that you could just sort of wave and will tell us what it is?" He says, to an extent, yeah, but I want some Spock. And then comes Captain Jack. And her loyalty is transferred completely to him. It's like, okay, now that's what I'm talking about. This, if I'm going to travel through time and space, I'm going with him. And I think out in the audience we're thinking, she's not wrong. And we never saw that with other companions. We never saw them
Tell me again.
question the ride.
What was that episode you were mentioning that she said something about Spock?
That's an Empty Child.
An empty child. Is that the one that said, "Are you my mommy?
God.
Mommy."
That's the one. Yes, that's true.
Mommy, are you my mommy? Mm-hmm. Mommy.
Yep.
Yep. You did it. It's not my fault. You
Also,
did it.
Yeah, Lee, you really made me think when you mentioned Jack, and I never really thought about this before, but I wonder, did they feel like it was a risk to bring someone on that might be cooler than a doctor?
yeah.
Huh.
Because that happens, the fan mail comes in and say, yeah, now we want a show about him.
See, if only we would have had River Song in season 1, we could have had a TV show about her.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
Jack
just
and
saying.
River show. Yeah.
So let me ask, I'm going to extend Rose just a bit. The extended family, which was never in, for all intents and purposes, we might have gotten maybe an extended family when they first joined the TARDIS in their first episode, and that was it.
Yeah, we got Tegan's aunt. That's,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
about
and
it.
I think Victoria, her father.
Her father, you're right. Yeah.
And then you saw Nissa's father, and but once they joined, they went off and they did their own thing, and you never heard the family again.
No.
My question is, do we like having the families, or do we not?
Yeah, that was definitely another, I think, masterstroke of this script and of this season is making Jackie pivotal to the story,
Yep.
and Mickey, of course, and to have this this character arc for Mickey, who at first is invited to come along, and he says, "No way,
Boy.
not
Mickey
a
the
chance." And yeah, Mickey the idiot, and boy, Mickey ends up as somebody else, and
Yeah.
maybe to a degree even greater than Rose. So, yeah, I love the family in that. I mean, one of the first things that the Doctor does for Rose, helping her, take all this in, is fix his phone so that she can call her mom. We never did that in the original series. Just a nice idea.
Yeah, and I agree. Bringing the family on is not just characters we see once and never see again, but they were pivotal to the story in a lot of ways, and we grew with them along the journey. So, I rather like bringing the family in, the aspect of that, and then something I guess we see it a little bit with the next companion, just a little bit with Freema, but not as much, I don't think, as we do with Rose's family. Although they do play a big part in her season as well. So
Yeah, they did, but kind of as pawns, though, I'm afraid. But yeah. But you remind me of thinking of things that Rose did that previous companions would never have done. Is that in Father's Day, because this is about her father, she breaks the rules. The Doctor says, "Here are things you can't do," and she does it anyway, because she wants to see and maybe save her father, because He's your father.
Yeah.
And Sarah Jane wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe she she wasn't given the opportunity, but
And then
yeah.
how they played into the whole alternate reality
Yes.
thing as well. So it was deep within
Right,
Yeah.
right. Her,
Rose's
we
run.
we didn't expect we would ever see her dad again.
No,
But
and if you want to go and show just how much those two characters progressed across those 4 seasons, you look at the end of time where she and Jackie are walking on January the 1st, 2005, and the conversation they have
Yeah.
just is evidence, right there in your face of how far both of those characters came in their journey.
Right.
My closing thing on Rose is I think I really think this could be taught in some type of writing course, as if you want to properly bring back a series after X number of years, whether it's drama, whether it's comedy, whether it's sci-fi or what. This, I think, is a perfect example. And Lee, I'm giving you fodder for a future course.
That's
but to me, I think this would be a perfect example if you're trying to teach me how to write and how to write effectively, and how you want to show me an example of it being done well. I think this episode ticks all the right check marks and boxes and whatnot of exactly that, because we're
Agreed.
still in 2025, 20 years later, because this episode worked. Because if it bombed and if it fell through the floor, I think I saw a quote, maybe it was in Radio Times, I'm not sure where it was, but it was David Tennant basically doing a quote that says, for all intents and purposes, I could have shot a regeneration scene and nothing else. That whenever basically saying when he went in, he didn't know if all he was shooting was a regeneration and nothing else. It just so happened he shot that and it got picked up, and the rest is history. So any other
Interesting.
closing thoughts on Rose before we wrap, literally?
It'd be interesting to maybe at some point do a comparison between this episode and the reintroduction with Judy, or the new number one, with the new season, to see if there's any similarities between this episode and Ruby Road.
yeah, I was watching the church on Ruby Road, kind of thinking about those things, because it invites comparison. And RTD's challenge back then was, can you bring this show back, please the fans of the classic series, but bring on a whole new generation who has no idea what this is about? Can you do all of that in an exciting hour of television? Go. It's juggling steak knives, and he did it, and it worked. And then all these years later, it's like, okay, the BBC isn't going to make this show anymore. It's your money is going to come from Disney. Hooray. And it's going to be, we have to think of our principal audience as being in America. And let's just go ahead and admit that most people have no idea what the show is about it's
Yeah.
And, so you just need to make it great. Okay, go. And it's really so much the same and also completely different.
Yeah. With no time gap this time.
Right. Just go. I don't know.
Clarence, you were talking about comparing. I will say this. There are 2 scenes, one in The End of the World, which is the second episode of the 2005 series, and then in Space Babies, in the first episode of last season, where the doctor takes Rose and the doctor takes Ruby, and they're looking out over this observation deck, and almost point to point, even with the phones.
Right.
It's the same scene basically, just different scenarios.
Yeah. I caught that too. That's That's deliberate. That's clearly
Yeah.
deliberate. That's very nice.
Yeah. So I'm going to end this by complimenting someone that I think that you guys would probably think I would never on this podcast ever compliment, and that is
Trump?
Chris Chibnall. I'm going to give Chibnall a compliment because this actually has to do with the series Flux. I recently saw something, again, I think it was on Instagram on a Doctor Who. So take it with a grain of salt, but it was positive, and I'm going to shed some positivity and share some positivity with you guys. Basically, right at the beginning of COVID, they were in the production of Doctor Who, and the BBC was pretty much hands down saying that we can't do this full series, we can't do this series because of restrictions, the way it's shot, etc. And I know we had some problems with the Flux story and how we wish that some of the actors didn't play other actors and whatnot. But going in the context of Chibnall went to the mat for Doctor Who to get it made, you know, even if we didn't like some of the things, myself and, you know, mainly didn't like some of the things, the fact that he went to the mat to get that series made, kudos to him,
That's true.
you know.
Yep. Yep.
So-
And hats off to Jodie Whittaker, who unfairly took a lot of the criticism
Yes.
for the show's failings. So,
Yes.
but yeah, I was going to bring up Flux earlier because I want to say that this trailer for the upcoming season was really exciting to me. But I also remembered how excited I was when I saw the trailer for the Flux season. So,
Yeah.
Oh no.
you know,
Well, you know what I'm not
Just,
excited for, and I think this means it's time for us to wrap. My next door neighbor's dogs are barking, and you know
I can't hear it.
I am not wanting to say to harm animals in any way, but I wish
Stop.
their
say it.
barking, not the dogs, their barking could be exterminated. I'm just saying.
Don't say it, man.
I'm just
Gotta get
saying.
email.
not the dogs. You-
Not the
yeah.
dogs, just the barking.
Address your hate mail to Kyle Jones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but seriously, you know, send a pating after him. I don't know. But, gentlemen, I was trying to say something nice. Come on. I haven't been
Yeah.
able to get oh, God, from Clarence in weeks. Come on, Clarence. Are you my mommy?
Oh, I said it earlier, man. You didn't hear me?
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Yeah. I think we
Okay.
both said it. Yeah.
Oh, darn it. Well, Tasha, who just joined the chat, will have to go back and rewind and listen to it because she
Yes.
came in at the end of the stream. So
But hi, Tasha.
it's Tasha's fault.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, this was fun. I have had more fun doing this in the last hour than I've had in quite a while. So maybe when Grace says, I need that cone of silence from the devil's cord. Yes. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Get smart.
Definitely. All right. Well, gentlemen, Lee, before we wrap, there is something you always like saying, and it's okay to say it at the end.
It is. We always know that you got other things you could be doing. And you chose to spend this time with us, and we really appreciate it.
And Clarence, if someone would like to subscribe to us, how might they do that?
You can support the show, of course, by hitting us up on any of the podcasting platforms. Subscribe there. We're available on social medias at Discussing Who. Check us out. And also you can send us email into discussingwho@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone who joined us live in the chat and for everyone listening later on the podcast feeds. As always,